There's going to be a lot of people telling you to run right now if you're investing in the stock market or just investing in anything really, because they're going to talk about the energy prices are outrageous because of what's going on with Iran. And I'm here to tell you that I've actually made it through several situations that were similar to this. I started my first company in 1990. What was going on in 1990? We had a recession. In my next recession was in 2000, the millennium. There was a recession. We also were hit by Osama bin Laden. Markets plummeted. Then we had the crisis in 2008, and then we had a mini crisis in with COVID. I don't want to say mini; it was worldwide, and that was in 2020. And now in 2026, we have an Iran war, and prices are going to jump. Something that I learned that was a very important lesson, and it's actually helped me become very successful in business after I put this together. And people will say, well, there's always like secrets and things out there. You want to pay to get the secret of this, to pay to get the secret of that. And I'm not here to say that you can't get access to people and information. That's always going to be something that is out there. But with this, I want to talk about something that's right in our faces. And when I put this together, when I put like 1 + 1 = 2 all the time, and when I look back at 1990, when I look at 2000, when I look at 2008, when I look at 2020, and when I look at what's going on right now in 2026, and all of the little parts in between, because there was also things that happened in between those times. One thing remained the same about investing is that when you invest, unless the world is going to explode, unless the planet is going to explode, and some of you may be thinking that way. I was thinking that way during COVID. I thought that it was all over. I had built my companies, and all of a sudden we can't even leave the house. My wife, she had to get a double lung transplant. Like everything was just coming down. But something what really like sealed it and locked it in was that during COVID, it was like a present to me. And I don't like that if anyone had family members that lost their lives or suffered any health issues because of COVID. But COVID taught me something that really sealed the deal on what investing and what's going on the outside, that it's really not anything it has nothing to do with the investment itself. It just has something to do with what's going on the outside. And when people see things that's going on the outside, they start running, they start selling. The emergency alarms are going off, and then all of a sudden the market goes down. And then the people who knew what I know, and they probably know, and they do know more even than I know, that those investments are going to go up as long as this thing remains consistent, that the companies that you invested in were legitimate companies, that the companies you invested in are legitimate companies. Because every company that we had invested in, or real estate that we invested in, or businesses that we started and invested in that were really businesses that people wanted to utilize the services, companies that we invested in on the stock market that were legitimate companies, legitimate product service, had legitimate numbers, not made up numbers. Real estate, no matter what, unless the planet blows up, people have to have a place to live. All of that stuff remained the same, even though we had wars, even though we had COVID, even though we had a downturn in the economy with people losing their jobs, everything. When I remain consistent with my investments, my portfolio, when it went back up, because everybody always talks about, I want to get in when it's low and make all this money when it's high. But what happens is people see your mind is so attached to it has to be going up, it has to be good for you to be able to invest. No matter what, let me let you in on a secret that people don't normally tell people, is that you, no matter what you do when you invest, you have risk. There is no way not to lose, but you can't win if you're not willing to lose it all. Now, we try to do all types of things to minimize our risk. But I'm here to tell you, if you're going to have growth, if you want to hit the big home run, I'm talking about bases loaded and you up there and you only got one strike left, is that you're going to have to be in the game to hit that home run. Because if you're on the sideline waiting for things to get pretty, waiting for things to get so much lined up for you, that day will never happen. Or when it does, it's only going to be like this much of a gain when you could have had this much of a gain. That's the way it is. So you need to be prepared for opportunities. Like, let me ask you this question right now. For what is happening today in the market, March 9th, 2026, for what is happening today in the market, did you have money set aside to take advantage of this situation right now? There are stocks right now. There's one stock. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to have someone say, well, Steve, I invested in that stock because you said it. There is one stock right now that my wife and I invest in and make $2,000-$3,000 in a month and then pull back down and then go right back into it, make another $2,000-$3,000 a month. Let me tell you, and so do you have money on the side to even have that opportunity? And you might be saying, well, I'm struggling. I'm struggling financially. I can't never save any money. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem, not the market going up and down, not the gas prices, not all of the stuff that everybody has to deal with. Everybody. People get sick. My wife right now is at home sick with the flu. She couldn't even move yesterday. And I even feel like I'm getting a little bit of it. So things are going to happen to you. Things are going to happen to me, to everybody. So what my question for you is, what are you going to do today so you can be prepared for that to happen? Because I can tell you this is what my mind set was. And I started my first company in 1990 when it was a recession. In a recession. Look it back up. If you wasn't born back then, it was a recession. George Bush was our president and Clinton became the president, and then we had the internet boom. But at the time, when that election was going on, people were struggling, markets were down, everybody was like, the economy, just like what everybody is doing right now, where people were saying about the economy. But what did I do? I invested in myself. Me and my wife invested in ourselves, started a business, small company, only $500 investment. And it wasn't easy back in 1990 to do what you, with all the tools and stuff you have available now. Computers wasn't $400 or $500. There was no such thing as a laptop at that time. There was no such thing as the internet at that time. Software was just being allowed or introduced to us, other than games and video games and all that stuff. I'm talking about software for someone to be able to break into a business was just being introduced. Cell phones did not exist. Cell phones did not exist in 1990. It existed for certain people, but it did not exist for average, everyday people. But while our friends, family, other people that we knew were not thinking about doing something for themselves. They were like, I got to go do this, work a job, this and that, which is nothing wrong with that. But we were like, we want more. We want more, but we don't have more. We can't go get bank loans. We living in a 1-bedroom studio. And we said, we want more. So what do we got to do? We got to say that first $500. And that $500 was not all we needed. The computer that we needed was $2,500. That was just the down payment to put it on layaway at a store called Computer Adventure. Small computer store. Said Stephen, he said, hey, this is what I'm going to do for y'all. I'm going to let you put it on layaway, pay on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you come in and work on it because it's basically yours. You just got it on layaway, and we thank him for that. We thank him for that because we would go into his store, work on the computer that we, learn the computer that we were buying from him. And for the business that we started, it was a marketing company, a magazine, newspaper. And the reason why that when I said earlier about you got to get into a business that people want, or if you're investing in a business that people want, at that time, small business owners had no place to go advertise unless they were going to pass out flyers, pass out business cards, or advertise in the daily newspapers, which was going to be an arm and a leg. It didn't exist for them. There was no options. So we started that business, and we just didn't know everything about how it was going to work, but we knew that if we could start that business, that we would have customers out there, if we could just put the puzzle together. But we didn't have the money. Everybody always talk about you don't have the money. I don't have the money. I got to go get it printed. I got to go get a truck to deliver it and all of this stuff. Guess what we did? We put all the pieces together. We said we needed a print shop, but we don't have the money to pay for it because nobody's going to print it, and you don't pay for it either right when you pick it up or even pay for it before if you're a new business, right? So we use our mind. Money starts in the mind. So we told that printer, we said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sell the ads. But oh, wait, the business owners, they're like, you're new. You and your wife are only 20 years old. I'm a business owner. I'm going to trust my hard-earned money with you. I'm going to trust you to do what you say you're going to do. I like the idea. I need customers. This is very good because if I don't have to spend the weekend passing out flyers. I can stay with my family and get some rest and relaxation. So what you're doing is a great idea, but I don't know if it can work or if you two are the ones. You're only 20 years old. So how are you 20 years old and is going to make something like this work? Are you the right people? And we said, okay, this is what we'll do. How about this? We just get the ad, we make the sample for you so you can approve it. We print the publication. We distribute the publication. And the following week, we'll come in and collect the money. They was like, that's a great deal because at least, at minimum, you printed it, showed me proof, and you put it out around the city. They was like, there we go. That was one piece of the puzzle. But the other piece of the puzzle that we needed, got to get that printer to understand that we don't have that money. But you can't go in there like, I don't have the money. Because nobody wants to deal with anybody who says they don't have the money. But what we learned later, we did this on accident, but what we learned later, and I get this from my mentor, Reverend Ike, is that if a person has the spirit, the mind, the presence of money, people will do things for you that you would have probably never expected. So we went in there and we said, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. We're going to sell the ads. Me and my wife are going to go store to store. We're going to sell those ads to these people, to these business owners, small business owners. We're going to put their ad together. They're going to approve it. And we're going to put the publication together. And back then, it was a lot harder to put a publication together because you had to actually print out the ad, make it on the computer, print out the ad, and glue it down to these big grid sheets. It wasn't nothing like what you got today. So we were going to do that, and then we were going to drive because there was no such thing as FTP upload in 1990. No FTP. See, I don't want to say it because I'm spoiled too with the way things are right now. But there was no such thing as FTP upload. We had to get in the car early morning, drive those grids to the printer. The printer would print the publication, and we would pick it up the next day. So we said, this is what we're going to do, Mr. Printer. Big $1 million company. Two 20-year-olds going to $1 million company. And there were people in between that introduced us. So there's some pieces on how we got to that, but to keep the story a little bit short, I'm just going to let you know the spoiler alert of what happened is that we convinced the printer that we would do what we're going to do is that every week that we came in, we're going to print and pay for the week before. He was like, if you could do that, good. And we did that for 35 years. To where, after, we got very comfortable work with each other, they would basically say, hey, you don't got to you just each month clear out your invoice each month. We were like, fine. But we still, what the most we had ever did was 2 weeks. We were just like, we collected the money from the people. We don't want to run up a bill or nothing. We'll just, every 2 weeks, we'll just clear it out. Weekly, yeah, it just gives us a little bit of leeway. But every 2 weeks for 35 years, after we got this thing rolling into a multi-million-dollar advertising company that at the biggest point, we would have 150 pages of small business advertisers inside of that each week. But it started back then when most people were afraid to do something because friends, family said, what are you doing? What are you and your wife doing? And it actually took 8 months for us to even be able to get the thing really, really, really going. And that wasn't even a lot of money. It was about $36,000. So just think, you put your business together. I'm working third shift at a security job, 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning. Get a couple hours sleep, and then me and my wife hit the streets, walking store to store, selling this advertising opportunity to small business owners. With doing that very hard, ups and downs, making mistakes, we were only averaging about $36,000 a year for the first year. But that was after 8 months of pushing hard. I was able to quit my job. And then when we averaged out what we would be making, it was $36,000 over a year. So now a lot of people be like, well, that's not a lot of money. And at that time I had turned 21, so it was a lot of money to us. But check this out. Within 4 years, we're making over $100,000 a year. At the age of 24, 100,000. Look at that. Look at that. How do you right now have a job where you make 36,000 and in 3 years later making $100,000 a year? And maybe you do. Maybe you do. But how about this? By 2020, over $1 million gross. And I'm not going to get into how much we were keeping in our pocket because some of the businesses that we worked with might be watching like, Steve, you're making too much money. And then to hiring people, salespeople, where we didn't have to do the work anymore, had graphic designers, had people that were going out on the street collecting the money and selling ads, and we're just mainly managing the business. But all of this was happening during wars, we did have a war, Iraq war. So we're talking about recession, wars, recession, getting out of a war, recession, COVID, recession, war. With all of that going on, started new companies. And now, see, before you start to think, well, you were doing well, what about other people? Well, I've hired hundreds of people, and I take pride that those people, even during COVID, did not get laid off or missed a paycheck. Did not. When other companies were laying people off, and I'm not here to say that other companies, what they have to do is what they have to do, because a business makes their own decisions. But I can tell you what me and my wife did is that nobody missed their money. None of our employees had to worry about their paycheck during COVID. None of them. And I'm very proud about that. So now, let's talk about you. Enough talking about me. What are you willing to do right now? Do you have to always wait for things to be perfect? Are you waiting for someone else to make the decision for you? Do you want to, let's just fast forward a little bit. No matter how old you are right now, this might be difficult for younger people. Maybe I would say the cutoff would be anyone that's 39 years old and younger. What I'm about to say may not get your attention. But anyone that's 40s, 50s, 60s, or higher, I know that what I'm about to say will get your attention. You may not do nothing, but it'll get your attention. Let's just say that you're at home, in bed, about to go to sleep, and you're not gonna wake. You know that there's a possibility that you won't wake up the next morning. That it's all over with. Would you be happy with what you've done with your life, with what you're leaving, with your legacy, for what you've done to help people, what you've done for your family, what you've done for yourself? What you've done, like, would you say, man, I wish I would have did this? That right there motivates me so much. Because I had that years ago, and I've done very well. But I had that thought in my mind one time when I was going to bed, and I was like, I got way more that I could do. I got way more. I won't get into the details, but it was like, I got way more things that I could do. So why not, instead of thinking about all the bad things that are constantly happening, how about putting some action into making good things happen for you? So what I want you to do is I want you to comment on this video. I'm going to get this channel moving. I'm not going to be fake on here. I'm not going to do anything to trick people into watching my videos. What I'm going to say is what I'm going to say. And here's the thing. I remember a person made a comment and they said, well, only a few people watched your videos. Well, only a few people on this planet get to really do, be, and have the things that they want. Everybody else is scrambling for the same things, and they end up getting a little piece of things that they want in their life. I look at it like this. The people who are watching my videos, they're not just on YouTube or any of these platforms just to watch a video. I would like to believe that that small number, because that small number would match what actually happens in the market with people, is that a large amount of people see an opportunity, but only a small amount of people actually take action and do something, and only a small amount of people benefit. Thank you for your time. Like this video. This is Stephen A. Williams with Making Money with Stephen A. Williams here on YouTube.